Point Charlie is now held by your team. Point Bravo is now held by your team. You're in complete control. Keep it up.
About to come online. Rogue fixer drone detected. Agent down. Rogue striker drone detected. Rogue Stinger hive detected. An agent needs assistance.
I'm sending you a specialization supply drop. You don't have many reinforcements left.
Vital signs critical.
A specialization supply drop has been arranged for you.
Rogue Stinger hive detected.
Reinforcements are gone. It's up to you now. Nobody's pulling out. The fight goes on.
System malfunctioning. System back online.
You're halfway through the fight.
Boost about to come online. Agent down. Boost about to come online. Boost now active.
Friendly claiming the supply drop. The specialization supply drop was just picked up by a friendly.
Rogue seeker mine detected. Boost about to come online.
The rogues have run out of reinforcements. You can win.
Firefly detected. Rogue striker drone detected. Serious trauma detected.
What's going on YouTube? Kamikaze Von Doom here with another Division 2 build video. Now I went ahead and showed you guys the gameplay first because I just wanted to show you how powerful this build is. It will melt through players instantly. Not only that, but I will explain to you how you can make this build hit harder, and I'll explain to you why I am using the build in the way I am using it. My character might look a little different because this is my second character and she's a female, so you know the skull mask and the the yellow raincoat doesn't really fit her as much. But alright, if you guys enjoy it, make sure hit that like, subscribe to the channel, make sure you join us on Discord. Shout out to the DoD Disciples of Doom. Alright, let's get into this. This is my Carnage max crit bleed build. It is a lot to say, but you'll understand why. I am running max crits on the Carnage, and I mean, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 or 6 different ways I make people bleed with this build. Now starting off with the stats, I just wanted to jump right into it. The Carnage that I am using, 60% crit chance and 111 crit damage. Just so you guys know, that's where I'm getting those max crits from, 60% crit chance and 111 crit damage. Now, just to explain the bleed portion, I'm using trauma. That makes enemies bleed when you shoot them in the chest. I'm using creeping death. That way, whenever I do get them on a bleed, it gets other people on a bleed as well. I'm also using the explosive seeker mine, which applies bleed, and the Stinger Hive, which also applies bleed. Now what makes this, so insane is that Carnage comes with Perfect Sadist. So I get 25% more damage to bleeding enemies. So it's bleed on bleed on bleed with max crits and a whole lot of damage. So, it's inevitable it makes players drop. Now, starting off at the top of the build, I am using the Gunner specialization. Main reason, because this is my second character and Gunner is the only specialization I have unlocked. But also, I don't know, I like the armor kit because this is a pretty squishy build, so getting that bonus armor with the armor kit is really nice. Also, the armor on kill is also very nice with this build as well. Anywhere I could get even a little bit more armor, I want it. Because this build slaps, but you have to play it, conservatively. Now, there's that. There is actually the only other way to make this build more, effective is using the frag grenade from the demo specialization. So you could switch this from Gunner to Demo and use that frag grenade, and that'll be another source of bleed. So you can make that, bleed on bleed on bleed on bleed on bleed. However, for this, I've been using the gunner specialization the whole time, and it works out fairly well for me. Another way to make this build better, instead of using Creeping Death, you could use Wicked or Perfectly Wicked, where you get more damage when the enemy is on status effects, because you are getting them on status effects constantly. That's the whole point of this build. So if you wanted to hit them a little bit harder, you could use Wicked. I'll explain why I'm using Creeping Death whenever I go over it, but those are the reasons, or the ways, that you could make this build even better. Alright, so now that is all done, let's start with the weapons. So the star of the show is Carnage. This is your named Negev LMG. This one, I'm at 88k total damage. That's with 15% LMG damage, 12% damage to targets out of cover, and 5.2% reload speed. Now what makes the Carnage so special, obviously, is that Perfect Sadist. I get 25% more damage to bleeding targets. After I kill 3 targets, the next one automatically gets applied bleed status to them once I hit them. So that actually occurs more often than not. It's a lot of fun to use this in conjunction with trauma and the skills I'm using and Creeping Death. It's pretty much a home run. Now, the mods that I'm using on this are all crit based because I am running max crit on the Carnage. So I have the Rugged Mini Reflex for the optic giving me 5% crit chance, the laser pointer giving me an additional 5% crit chance, and that muzzle brake giving me another 5% crit chance. Now for the pouch, I am using the large pouch because I'm running gunner, and with that I have a magazine size of 150 rounds. Now going to my secondary, it is the Grudge. The Grudge is the named Banshee SMG, and what makes it so nice is Perfect Vindictive. Killing an enemy with a status effect applied to them grants you and all your allies within 20 meters 18% crit chance and crit damage. That lasts for 20 seconds. Now I'm already running max crit on the Grudge as well, but it is nice to, get that extra crit damage, not only for me, but my teammates as well. Now this one is at 102.7k total damage. It's at 15% SMG damage, 17% crit chance, and 9% damage to targets out of cover. This thing slaps just as hard as the Carnage. Now as far as the mods go, they are all crit damage because with it being an SMG, I do get that extra crit chance as a core attribute. So the Russian red dot sight gives me 5% crit damage. The vertical grip I'm running for accuracy just to keep my bullets in a nice tight group, and the flash hider again crit damage. Now for the magazine I am using the extended 9mm mag, and it bumps my magazine size up to that 52 rounds. Now for the sidearm I'm using the backup boomstick, reason being it hits for 1.4 million total damage. And I have close and personal on it, which if you're using this weapon, you're going to be close and personal. So I have 16% shotgun damage, 8% damage to armor, and 9% crit chance. So yes, I have max crit on the shotgun as well. It's pretty stupid. Now those are the weapons. As far as weapons go, I wouldn't change any of these really. I like exactly what each of them provide for this build. Now doing an overview of the build itself, I am running 3 Providence for the crit and crit damage. I'm running 1 Grupo Sombra for the crit damage, 1 Seska for the crit chance, and then Contractor Gloves for the damage to armor and LMG damage. Now, I am using Trauma and Creeping Death. That way, every time I get them on a status, I can also have a chance of getting all the other enemies around them on the same status, which will even help me out further. Now, starting with the mask, I am using Providence Defense Mask. Providence Defense brand set bonuses that I have with this build: 10% headshot damage, 10% crit chance, and 15% crit damage. This one is God rolled. I have 15% weapon damage, 6% crit chance, and 12% crit damage. For the red mod slot, I went with more crit damage, so 10.6% there. Going to the backpack, this is Seska backpack. The Seska brand set bonus I get is 10% crit hit chance. I have 15% weapon damage. I rolled 12% crit damage, and it also has skill haste. The blue mod slot, I went with burn resistance because if anything, I run into burn more than any other effect in the game. Now, as far as the talent, Creeping Death, I wanted to explain this a little bit more. Now, Creeping Death, when you apply a status effect, it also applies it to all enemies within 8 meters of the target. Now, playing PvP, a lot of groups, well, I should say, a lot of groups that are together actually play together. If it's a whole bunch of randoms working together, they're not gonna, stay in a tight group. They're gonna spread out and do whatever they want. But if you're going against, a legit team, they usually stick together, and Creeping Death really loves that. It'll get them all on a bleed at the exact same time, and then my Carnage can just go to town. Now the cooldown is 15 seconds, which is just fine. You get them all on bleed, you do your little fight, and then by the time you heal up, you can apply the Creeping Death again. Now going to the gloves, these are my contractor gloves. It is the named Petrov gloves. And with Petrov, the brand set bonus, you get 10% LMG damage. I rolled 15% weapon damage, and it has 8% damage to armor with 2.9% crit chance. Now, the chest piece, Grupo Sombra chest piece. The brand set bonus I get from Grupo Sombra is the 15% crit damage. I have 15% weapon damage, 5.9% explosive resistance, and 6% crit hit chance. It has a yellow mod slot, so I went with skill haste at 11.1%. Now trauma, this is where the build really comes together. Not the top part of this talent, but the bottom part. So the top part says that applying blind to an enemy happens every time you hit them in the head. That happens every 30 seconds. We don't really care about that too much. What we care about is the bottom part. Applies bleed to an enemy you hit in the chest. Now using a LMG, hitting them in the chest is pretty much common sense. You're going to hit them in the chest pretty much no matter what, and doing so you get that bleed, you get to proc that Creeping Death, you proc Perfect Sadist, and you're off to the races. Utilize the max crit from this build, and this thing just shreds through their armor. Now, going down to the holster. Providence Defense holster. I have 15% weapon damage. It came with crit hit chance of 2.4%, which is relatively low, but then I rolled on their max crit hit damage at 12%. And then finally, the knee pads, again, Providence Defense. I rolled weapon damage at 15%. It came with 9.4% crit hit damage and 3.5% crit hit chance. There are obviously ways to make this build better, but it is all due to RNG. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more farming to get those numbers up just a tad bit. Now for the skills, I've already told you guys about the skills. Stinger Hive, it applies a bleed, common sense. And Explosive Seeker Mine, again, causes bleed, common sense with this build. You want to run it this way, that way you get them on bleed as much as possible. You could run the demo specialization, like I was saying earlier, to get that fragment grenade, and then you can apply bleed that way as well. So that would be a better way of doing it. Now, Creeping Death versus Wicked, that's kind of up to you and your playstyle. You can either apply bleed to more enemies at one time, or you could just have more damage for those enemies. That's really up to you guys. Now finishing up with the stat sheet, pretty nice. So Perfect Sadist, Perfect Vindictive, Close and Personal, and then obviously my minigun are all my weapon talents. Now, for the weapon stats, this is for the Carnage. 88,006 weapon damage, 38,722 PvP weapon damage. It has 60% crit hit chance and 111% crit hit damage. I also have that 8% armor damage, so that's pretty strong. Now, going to the actual weapon tab, I have 100% all weapon damage bonus with 40% LMG damage. So every time I'm using my Carnage, I have 140% damage bonus total. It's pretty sick. Now going to the gear, I am running that Creeping Death with Trauma. Those are pretty much key. And then to get that max crit, I am running the 3 Providence, 1 Seska, 1 Grupo, and then obviously the Petrov. Now, defensive tab, 726,015 armor with 72,601 armor on kill. I have 281,430 max health with a little bit of health regen. The explosive resistance is at 5.9 and hazard is at 5.2. That is due to my watch level. And let's see what else. 27.4% skill haste, not a big deal. A lot of that is also from my watch level. And that's it, you guys. This is the Carnage max crit bleed build from yours truly. I am Kamikaze Von Doom. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. Don't forget about our Discord channel. I'm Kamikaze Von Doom. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.